View from the Gutters, episode 122. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Moon Knight by Warren Ellis, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 106.45. View from the Gutters 122.
Yeah.
I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Tobiah Panshin.
I'm Joe Preti.
I'm Adam Panshin.
Adam is back, guest starring, because we had a major catastrophe as far as getting people here.
Does it count as a major catastrophe if just no one wanted to show up?
Well, it's not that no one wanted to show up, it's that Kaylee was on vacation, and Cade had prior arrangement, and Brant had a bunch of family stuff, and
we fired everybody.
Everybody quit.
Yeah.
Sometimes everything lines up.
Yeah.
So before we get started, real quick, as usual, thank you to our episode sponsors for this week, Brandon Hill, Addison Appleby, and Brian May.
Yay.
You guys are our favorites.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners, as usual.
Yes, all of our other favorites.
And this week, we're talking about Moon Knight.
By Warren Ellis and Declan Shalvey.
And
Declan.
And Jordie Bellaire.
Yes, definitely got to credit the inker and colorist, whatever the official title is for these. On
Colorist and inker is not necessarily the same thing. I think a lot more artists these days are doing their own inks.
Well, a lot of them are working
doing
digitally now.
Yeah, so there's sometimes they do their own inks, sometimes they skip the inking process completely.
Yeah, because depending on the artwork, so it's like.
But the colors on this series definitely merits a mention.
Yeah, and it's Declan, right? Declan Shalvey?
Declan,
yeah, I think
sure.
Declan.
I have no fucking idea how to say his name, so
I
I'm just going to butcher it entirely.
My rule, because I have an incredibly simple last fucking name that people butcher consistently, is always go as simple as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's usually...
Preti.
No, it's pronounced fuck yourself. It's spelled
it's spelled really weird. That's not really simple at all. I would have never got that.
What is the weirdest you've gotten? I've gotten Panshin.
Oh, just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's been a very long day, so I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but just completely wrong, or looking at it and just having no idea what these letters even are.
Well, it's because nobody recognizes what it is. Everybody says, oh, that must be foreign, therefore it must be pronounced funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. Also, I'll say my first name to people, and they're like, I'll be like, hi, nice to meet you, I'm Joe. Oh, hi, Jeff.
Dan?
No, not Jeff, Joe. Oh, sorry. Hi, Jim. Like, that doesn't even remotely sound like fucking Joe.
Maybe if you didn't mumble so much, people would be able to understand.
How do you mumble Joe?
I don't know, but you do it consistently. I get Chard a lot, and I'm like, if you mispronounce my last name, it lets me know how few vegetables you eat. Because it's a fucking vegetable.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And now I know how few vegetables you eat.
The funny thing is that I refer to you as Chard to fucking everybody. And so they're like, who the fuck is Chard? Like, that's a weird name. And I'm like...
about 50-50 people who know me as my first name and as my last name. So
yeah, it's...
right down the middle. But... comics.
Yes.
You recommended this, right?
No, Brant did.
No, I recommended it a while ago, and it didn't get picked. Brant pitched this time. Right. But I'll gladly steal his thunder and talk about this book first.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Warren Ellis is fucking on the mark. This is the best Batman book that I have ever read. Like, I don't know just how he did it, but he took this character and just refreshed him like I've never seen before. He made me care about Batman for the first time, and I honestly mean that.
Yeah.
So I really think that if you because you said I want to fucking hit you with something, because this is not everybody that fights crime at nighttime is fucking Batman. All right, there are a world of fucking comparisons you can make.
Yeah, only Catwoman's fucking Batman, right?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, who knows what the fuck he's doing?
Well, let me put it this way.
Sometimes Wonder Woman.
I wish Batman was this cool.
Batman has a completely
He's a different kind of cool.
It's like Batman.
He likes to be
Batman is very much about hiding. He's very much about his own mythology. He's very much about you don't know what's there, and the fact that you don't know what's there makes it 10 times worse.
It's the bat.
Yeah, it's like... I mean, that's the whole fucking Batman persona is like he comes out of fucking nowhere and ninjas your ass, and then all of a sudden there were 3 of you, now there's 2.
And this
there's
Moon
1.
Knight is very much building up his own mythology of I'm the one you see coming.
Yes, like I want them to see me coming.
Yeah.
But he's playing the detective, and he's playing a brilliant detective. Like, I don't think that Batman does enough detective work anymore.
Well,
This is true.
So, counter argument to what both of you said, because I disagree with both of you. No, this isn't Batman. Also, not always with Batman.
Well, no,
because the thing is, we've said a lot of times on the show, is like there are many different versions of Batmans. We eat Batman. We each have the ones that we prefer. And I think that we've all gone on record as like what we like about Batman. But yeah, there is definitely, in some people's case, the shadow Batman. That scene from Batman Begins in the containers where it's like the guys with guns and they're walking around patrolling and he's taking them out one by one, and the last guy's like freaking out because he doesn't know what's happening. He's like, where are you? And then there's Batman right behind him like whispering here, which is still one of my favorite Batman scenes of all time ever on film. But then there's Frank Miller's Batman, who is not like that, who is like there's helicopters chasing him, he's shooting them with guns and grappling guns, and he's just beating the tar out of a mutant in a mud pool surrounded by hundreds of people that all know he's there. Like, there are many different incarnations of Batman. I think this is not very Batman because for that very reason of he wants everyone to know who he is and he wants them to see him coming. And that feels un-Batman-like to me.
It feels Batman-like to me in that he wants people to be afraid of him. He wants people to be afraid to prey on those who travel by night. And that's what Batman wants, too.
Well, that is a Batman. This is Warren Ellis. I mean, he's reinventing the character. It's what Warren Ellis does these days. I mean, I was just talking with Toby earlier this week, apropos of current issues being out, Secret Wars Marvel Zombies with Elsa Bloodstone. And I don't know how many of you have actually dug out and looked at the original Elsa Bloodstone miniseries, but it's utter crap. It's a cheap Buffy the Vampire Slayer knockoff. And there's a reason that the Next Wave Elsa instantly replaced the old version. There's a reason the Next Wave Machine Man instantly replaced the old version, who was boring as hell. There's a reason, after a little struggling, the Next Wave Monica, thank you Mighty Avengers, is now being established as the, as the new Monica. For reals, this is her. She went through this. This is Monica.
Yeah.
And, it's like, Warren Ellis doesn't do comic runs anymore. He does mini-series where he, goes with high-concept stuff, or he takes a shot at reinventing a character because he thinks it's fun and he has a cool twist on it. Mm-hmm. And Moon Knight is Warren Ellis doing this isn't Batman, but... And it's not even, I can't believe it's not Batman like you get in all the knockoff Justice Leagues that both DC and Marvel do. This is Warren Ellis going, okay, the person who guards travelers by night, go. What can I do with that? And with some very able assistance from the artists.
And I think that it's also very un-Batman-like because he deals in realms that Batman would not be comfortable dealing with.
That's certainly true.
Batman is the king of knowing which chess pieces to move into the right place to solve his problems for him. And so I think that when he's like, oh, this magic shit, I need to get Etrigan, or I need to get the Spectre. Like, we've seen those kind of stories before, and I think that's what Batman kind of excels at, is knowing his quote-unquote friends.
He's a pulp crime detective.
Yeah, and I think that what we see with Moon Knight traveling into the dreams of the dead and ghost punching punk rock ghosts is shit you would never see Batman do.
And I gotta say that delving into the dreams of the dead issue, the artwork on that is so ridiculously mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, I mean,
the art on all 6 issues is amazing. I remember having long conversations with you when it first came out, just the first issue with the light.
Yes.
That Moon Knight is this hole in the comic. Almost, the light does not color him.
Yeah, is no gradients, no shading, no shadow. It's line art and then blank space.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, it's not even that he's white. Like, you go to the scene where he's down in the basement, like that shield facility, and all the light is red, and he's still fucking bright white.
Yeah.
Like,
And
nothing touches him.
You compare it to his white limo. The white limo is white. He is a hole in space.
And that's kind of the biggest departure for me. I have a really big issue with, I think there's saying that everybody that fights crime at night is like Batman. It's like saying everything tastes like chicken, right? It's like, yeah, there's some similarities, but the biggest difference for me was that hole. Batman is a presence. If Batman scares the shit out of people. This Moon Knight, he's such like a non-presence. Like he doesn't really want to, he wants to kind of cut this hole around him. He wants to separate himself. It's when he says, when he's fighting, what's his face? Is it Black Spectre?
Yeah, Black Spectre.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to be loved. Like, that keeps you from getting shit done. Like, I just want to fucking do what I need to do.
That's fairly Batman-like at some points.
I mean, it's similar, but like, I guess I feel that there's both of these characters, and the things that I liked about this is for the first time ever, I didn't feel like Moon Knight was just this was basically just white Batman. I felt like he had pathos. There was something interesting there.
The thing is, I think Mr. Knight is like Batman, as opposed to the other incarnations of Moon Knight. Because I'm looking at issue 5, where it's him doing the fight through the tenement.
Yeah.
Very, what is it, Tony Jaa, the Protector?
Yes.
And the second to last, or the last thing he said is, listen, where you're going, tell your friends, tell everyone you meet. You tell them all, when you see me coming, run. And that is a very Batman kind of thing to say.
Yeah, but that's
he is creating this persona, and this is only one of his personas. You know?
Yep.
Like, Moon Knight is 4 different characters.
So have they done anything with that in the
Brian Wood
I'm not
stuff?
sure.
I haven't read
Because that
No.
brings me to my biggest problem with this.
I've heard people saying generally positive things about the Brian Wood run, but not effusive enough that I've gone looking after it.
I read the first 2 issues of the Brian Wood run, stopped reading it. I'm back on it now that it is Cullen Bunn, and I'm enjoying it again. So
This is a holdover from the 90s for me, so it probably bothers me a lot more than it would bother somebody that was more into more modern comics. I fucking hate when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to write 6 issues of this." It's like, I don't want fucking 6 issues. Like, stick with it. Write something interesting. Fuck your 6 issues. Because you're inevitably going to give it to somebody that, A, either doesn't understand the direction they're going to do, and not trying to ape it, are going to fucking ruin it, or not do it as well, or B, try and take it in a completely different direction. Like, I don't give a fuck about your 6 issues.
When was the last time Warren Ellis did more than 6 or 8 issues of
Well,
anything?
and that's exactly
Next
the
Wave
thing.
was 12.
But
That
that's
was
the
a while
thing.
ago.
Like, I love Warren Ellis, and I really like these stories, but it's like, well, I'm going to tell these 6 stories, and I'm going to kind of establish this character. It's like, you don't establish a superhero in 6 issues. You give little bits here and there, but then he's going to give that to somebody else to fill in the backstory.
I would have loved for this to run 100 issues.
I don't think you could. The thing is, I don't think you could do 100 issues of this. This is
I don't think you
good
could.
because it's 6 issues, and each of them is almost entirely self-contained.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
anything
you
that
do
goes on long enough is going to develop some kind of meta plot. But the thing is that I enjoy this series so much, these 6 issues, that I'm glad just to have that.
See, and I'm happy to have read it, but I think he could have done a year and really firmly established this idea of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
The thing is that I think that if he had gone more than 6 issues, whoever came in next would start deconstructing the things that he had done instead of trying to build on top of it.
And that's the thing. I don't necessarily think at all. I think if you do it for a year, around the 6-month mark, you bring in somebody and collaborate with them so that you find somebody that shares your vision. Because I just don't think, and if not, if somebody just wants to totally deconstruct it, whatever, you have 12 issues, which I think is a solid run in order to establish a superhero. You can do different things with like indie comics and stuff that's more like slice of life or something that's a little bit more of a deconstruction. You can tell a more intense story in 6 issues in some circumstances. But for when you're trying to establish a new like mythos for a character, it's just, and creators did this in the 90s all the fucking time because it sold comic books. Oh, blah, blah, blah is going to write this. And then they would write it for 3 or 4 issues and then they would fuck off and the book would go back to being shitty. It was like, well, who fucking cares about your 4 fucking issues? Like, I want something solid that I can sink my teeth into.
Yeah, and I mean, like, my counter argument for that is like, yeah, that's great. There are many books that exist in the world that are for you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that's cool about this is it reminds me of when they did those Batman Black and White or Batman Solo or Superman Solo series where it's just like, these are tales from the mythos of that character. They're short little nuggets of fun stuff. And there you go. That's it. Enjoy it. Take it or leave it. Enjoy it. And I don't have a problem with it when it is an established character who has like a large mythos. Like if this had been like, here's 6 one-shots from Captain America's career. And it would have been like, oh, those were all like fun, interesting takes. But it is both that and also a reinvention of the character. And it does a great job at both. But it is, I don't know that it is as successful as other miniseries because it doesn't do more than just these one-shot stories.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about it either way because it's like at one point it's like, I love this. This feels like an amazing comic book snack. Like this is just something to read and it's fun.
And that's exactly it's like Warren Ellis is like, come into my kitchen. Here is this amazing setup. I'm going to make you something that is going to blow your mind. And he spends all this time setting it up and he makes this beautiful dish and he cuts you a little slice and he's like, here you go. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. He goes, did you like that? And you're like, yeah. He goes, well, that's all you fucking get. And he throws the rest of it away. It's like, why
well, he didn't
would you
throw
do
the rest
that?
of it away. There isn't any more. Like he made this little piece, and that's all that he made.
He made your appetizers.
But I don't. Warren Ellis is not to me. I don't believe that there wasn't more there. I think that he wanted to do other things, but Warren Ellis does not write the kind of stories that just go for 6 issues. I don't think I've read enough of his writing to know that I've never read anything from him that didn't feel like he was planning a continuation of it somewhere in his head.
And I'm sure somewhere in his head there's more like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't know.
But it's not like he's not doing other things. He's doing Trees and he's doing Supreme Blue Rose, both of which are incredibly good.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you stopped making the appetizer, the Moon Knight, but now you've moved on to another dish that I also like. Like, I don't feel like I can be butthurt about that.
I mean,
because he's not doing another Transmetropolitan.
I'm not necessarily. I mean, I'll. Part of my short-temperedness about it is because I've been out in the sun all day and I'm fucking exhausted. But, and it's not necessarily even this. Like, I really enjoyed these 6 issues. I think they really establish an interesting Moon Knight. And I like the mythos they're building for him. I like him being...
Moon Knight's always been interesting. We're talking a lot about the fact that he's like a reinvention of the character.
Well, he has been interesting, but he has not always been handled well.
No, I agree with
mean,
that.
by a fucking long shot, he has not been handled
character.
Well, yeah.
And
but I mean, like,
absolutely.
He's especially part of Marvel's B or C list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean-
have had a series or 2, some of which was decently long. You know, he's in there. He's a step above Sleepwalker and about alongside Darkhawk, only a little better because he's older.
Do not fucking believe you just name checked those 2 fucking characters.
Do not talk shit about Darkhawk to
I
me.
could not. No, I'm talking about Sleepwalker. I didn't even
Oh, well, you
like.
talk
Didn't he
shit
have like
about
a
him all you
4-issue miniseries and appeared in like 3 books?
he was part of the 90s new wave, New Warriors.
For fucking 5 minutes.
No, he was around for a few years.
Jesus
and he
Christ.
just showed up again in Fantastic Four.
Oh my God. How is Fantastic Four is a thing again?
Well, it just ended.
Right.
Fantastic Four has actually not been a thing before.
Right.
It's been running continuously, I believe, since the 60s.
Yes.
And they just ended it for the first time ever.
Yes. Which I think is hilarious.
Well,
but
it's sometimes gone to different titles. But
Yeah, well, it
there's
was
always been
Future
a
Foundation.
Fantastic Four. There was the Knights version.
they're just going to put it, what they're going to do is they're going to keep releasing it. It's just going to have white covers and it's just going to say comic across the top in black type. Like generic, like when you go to the generic store, it's just like beer or beans. That's what it's going to be. And people will be like, what's this? And then they'll read it and it'll just be nothing. It's a new meta thing.
Something I wanted to mention about Warren Ellis and about what Toby brings up about kind of like the appetizer method
Sure.
of writing comics is I think that it's an interesting thing that we're seeing in the modern age of comics, where it used to be like you did your indie work to get noticed by Marvel and DC, and then you went and worked for them and got the steady paycheck, and that was your thing. This is the Jed Winnick method, the like Brian Bendis method, the Brubaker method to some extent, and now we're seeing people
Go the other way.
doing Marvel work and DC work essentially in order to promote their indie work and their creator-owned work.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to Adam about this, that some of the bigger guys with their indie work, and I'm talking about like Scott Snyder and Jason Aaron and Matt Fraction, they make more money from their creator-owned stuff at Image than they do from their work at Marvel or DC, which is a new thing.
Right.
And basically it's like, yeah, I'm going to work for the big two because they sell big numbers, but they don't make me a lot of money because that's going to build my profile. It's going to build my audience. It's going to get my name out there. And then they're going to turn around, they're going to buy my indie stuff. And that's where I'm going to make my money. And that is a reversal.
Owned, and they get the bigger slice of the pie.
It's the difference between like going through iTunes where you get, a certain percentage versus like putting the song out on your own website where you get a larger chunk of the percentage. So even though you're selling fewer numbers, you're getting more money.
Right.
Which has been a thing in indie music for a long time, but is now happening in comics, which
and that's
exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that very, I think, neatly contextualizes this. This is the 6-issue, like, one-time performance that Warren Ellis does to get a lot of people who read Marvel to go, oh my God, this Warren Ellis guy is amazing. What else is he doing? And he's like, well, I'm working on these creator-owned projects. Would you like to sample them? It's the VMAs. It's, who the fuck knows how much it pays? It gets his name out there.
Right.
The people who, to the newer crowd, the people who've forgotten him, the people who don't know him.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't bear Warren Ellis any ill will. It just it puts me in mind of those days when...
No, you do.
Oh, well, I do.
You bear him ill will because he never finished Fell.
It wasn't his fault.
I know, but you're bitter about it. I know you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm saddened by it, but I don't. It's like I said, I don't hold it against him.
Do you think though that we'll ever see like as large of runs on stuff? Because you said that you're a fan of harkening back to kind of like the 90s, early 2000s modern age of comics. I guess even 80s, where you would get like huge runs by writer artists.
No, I don't necessarily need that anymore, but like I like the idea that somebody comes in and writes a book for a year and you get one take and then you're allowed to kind of immerse yourself in that, and then the next person comes along and they can do, well, the last person talked, like Warren Ellis talked about Mr. Knight. I'm going to talk about this other aspect.
Right.
And I'm going to do that for a year or whatever. And then somebody else can come in and be like, oh, I want to talk about this aspect more. Or maybe I want to talk about Mr. Knight more. Or I want to talk, like, I like the idea that you're getting kind of serialized pieces. And we've talked about before that I like the idea of almost a continuity-less universe where people can come in and be like, well, I want to tell a story about 70s Batman. I will fucking tell that story, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a great story that you want to tell.
Yeah.
And like, something where you're kind of, and you can still have the continuity shit, but just kind of let people have more creative.
Well, books like Tales of the, was it Legends of the Dark Knight?
Yeah, because that shit was fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, in a time when comics were, iffy. Legends of the Dark Knight fucking hit home run after home run after home run.
Well, because it gave a lot of creators freedom to write stuff.
To really,
being an outlet for pent up creativity gives you a lot of powerful mojo saved up to run off of until it gets spent.
Absolutely, and I think my other question for you guys is: do you think this felt entirely too brief? Not only because it was 6 issues, but because of how, I would say, sparse the actual text was. I mean, there's not a lot of caption boxes.
I'd say it's very stylized. It's going for a... I don't want to use cinematic because that's over and misused a lot, but, it's going for... Each issue has a one-word title, and it revolves around that, and it's a self-contained unit, and it does feel... we've moved very much away from the episodic days, and in a lot of ways that's good, but there is power to episodic storytelling done right.
Absolutely.
And this does it right.
I think you're right to not use the term cinematic, but what I think this does that a lot of comics aren't doing is this trusts the visual storytelling that are possible with comics.
To get to that, the art on this really, really drives it. And it's been a while. I forget some of the surrounding interviews and talk, but I remember having the sense that Ellis was working very, very closely with his artists on this one, and he would have had to because the art is really driving the story very strongly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot to just trust the artist. I mean, there are the openings. The one that's so striking to me is the opening sequence with the 8 people who are getting sniped.
Yeah,
and you're losing panels each time.
Oh, that was
that was incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And in that issue as well, that's when he's wearing the black suit with the white coverings and
Armor,
the big.
That's what he's wearing.
Mr. Knight, or whatever Ghost Puncher is called.
And just like the way that
Ghost Puncher. Yeah, I don't see a problem with
arcs and covers parts of the panel, like it's just incredibly striking, and it's so powerful. Like they were obviously thinking very, very hard, like not just about the way that they were framing him in the panel, but the way that the panels were laid out and how it works together on a page. Like there's something very potent there, just the way that he seems to flow out of the gutters, like he is this omnipresent thing.
Well, it's a clinic and show me, don't tell me, right?
Yeah.
It hits all the notes it wants to hit. It makes you want to read it. It makes you like, I mean, I read this so quick. I read all 6 issues in probably a half hour, probably less.
Super quick read.
Just because I ate it up. Like it's everything. Everything has a desired effect, and all of those effects are hit. Like it does everything it sets out to do art-wise. It just looks like the fact that he looks like a hole in the world. The fact that like every action is transmitted in this incredibly simple way. The fact that it is very sparse dialogue-wise, and
it explains a lot through the art to you. Also,
which is what fucking art should do.
I'm usually a very narrative-focused guy. I usually only notice the art when it is actively detracting from the storytelling, when characters are off-model and I can't follow the action. This one, the art is both good enough and prominent enough that even I was stopping to notice the art, and that the art is really doing the storytelling without needing dialogue or narration to explain or drive things.
Yeah, like where do his fucking moonerangs come from? They explain it in the art.
Yep,
like no one ever has to be like, oh, it seems like you never run out of moonerangs. And he's like, well, it's because I have this handy device on my back.
It's very
You just
cool.
fucking see it.
of my own design.
Yeah.
I feel like he would definitely say of my own design.
And no one needs to explain to you that he has a basement full of this old Egyptian shit. Like, they just show it to you.
Yeah.
No one has to explain to you where he's getting, the information that he's getting from this, what the Egyptian god looks like. They let the art do so much of, filling in what that spectral presence is like. And it's not in a caption box.
It really lets me follow the action. It's like everybody has been talking about Mad Max Fury Road, how easy it is to follow the action. And, looking at some of the behind the scenes interviews and videos, they do it by, I forget the term they used, but not only do they keep the action center camera as much as possible, but he was doing this directorial thing where, if you're following the action on one shot and the viewer's eye is upper right of the part of the screen, and then it cuts, the action continues at the upper right.
Yeah.
From whatever it cuts to.
Well, it's continuity. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that by the way the scenes are cut, that it makes it easy and automatic for the viewer to follow the action instead of needing a second or two to figure out where they should be looking after every cut. And the art in this comic, it isn't using the same techniques, but the action flows and is understandable in a similarly very well crafted way for me.
Well, and both the reason that both of those things are incredible. I mean, Fury Road had I feel like movies that are largely action have a huge potential to drag, because it's just like, a director will have to find a reason, some kind of conceit that makes them stay here. One of the brilliant things about Mad Max is the plotting is brilliant. It gives you just enough time to catch your breath at certain very well-planned moments, and then it slams you right back into it.
Similarly sparse in dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. It lets the story tell itself, and that's exactly what is so good about this. Is the plotting on it.
These are prominent examples, good examples, I would say, of how the visual storytelling medium works.
Yeah.
And I think that comics very often, it's forgotten that it is a visual storytelling form first.
Yeah. I just flipped through issue 3, which is the ghost punching issue. Half the pages have no dialogue on them. And most of the other ones have 1 or 2 word balloons.
And it's like that for the entirety of the 6 issues. It is...
but there's a lot of great visual shorthand in there, like when he's firing his grapnel thing, and the line does that sine wave shape thing. You can feel the sound effect in your head,
right?
When there's nothing there, there's no onomatopoeic sound effect,
right?
There,
I don't think there's any used in the series.
No, it's just you look at it and you can hear that panel in your head, and that is something that not enough people know how to do well.
And just with the few lines of dialogue that it does have, it gets you into the motivation of the character. He very rarely monologues, but he has a few important, what I would call chunks in this comic.
Yeah.
They're not huge, but few important chunks of speech that he says. Toby read one already about, I want you to run. And I think what we see often from people who write a lot of crafty dialogue or excellent dialogue is you're fatigued by the time you get to the good lines that they don't have any impact.
Oh, yeah.
Too much talking head.
Yeah, and it's not that Bendis can't write a good quippy line, it's that he writes 100 mediocre lines and then one good one. By the time you get to the good one, you're already I don't care.
Well, and it's the difference between well written. It's like somebody like David Mamet who can do that kind of patter, or I think Aaron Sorkin can do it too, where the patter of the dialogue is set up in a specific rhythm. The sentence structure is very particular, so that the sentences they're saying, while they're saying a lot of them, they're all very kind of short and easy to follow, and you can follow along. It's almost like listening to a musical. You can tell people, like, writing shitty dialogue, you can't fucking do that because it's like, you've been talking for 5 minutes and I have no fucking idea what you're saying.
Bendis, for me, one of the signature Bendisisms is the conversational nature of his dialogue. That it's, got lots of people hesitating and repeating themselves and stuff that people do in actual conversations, but you usually don't see in fictional setups because it eats up time.
Well, it's also
it creates a very strong atmosphere that, in my opinion at least, works in some cases and not in others, which is to say along most of the superhero genre stuff.
It's very Tarantino-esque.
Well, I think it does something to superhero comics that I don't want to say hadn't been done before, but hadn't been done to great effect before. Yeah. The 2005 reboot of Avengers was, it made it feel like it took place in a real world, not just through the art or through the grittiness, or that it was grimdark, but that you believed these were real people.
And the thing is, I felt that worked great on Powers and Alias. It's just not the flavor I'm looking for in my Avengers.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone, but it's great to have Hawkeye and Beast in the Rick Remender Age of Ultron book have a conversation about Sonic. Or what was it? No, what's the burger place that?
Oh, it's Sonic. Yeah. The car hop place.
Was it? No, it was
Sonic.
it was what's the one in California that everybody likes? In-N-Out. That's what it is.
Well, now I hate you even more because now I want
because they were in the West Coast.
Yeah, you're right. So they're talking about burgers, and those kind of moments make you remember that this is like a living, breathing, real world, and that's I think that's what Bendis went through a lot of trouble to do in the mid 2000s with the Avengers. Whether you like it or not. And I think that added a lot of reality to the Marvel Universe, and we see that kind of stuff leak into Ghost Rider and Ms. Marvel with how those books feel very real for other reasons, and they feel very connected to the Marvel Universe for other reasons, where you have the Cyclops was right graffiti on the background of All New Ghost Rider, and you have Ms. Marvel playing Avengers video games and writing Avengers fan fiction, wearing Avengers hoodies. And something that I think is very interesting about this Moon Knight series is it doesn't feel tied to the Marvel Universe, really.
No.
At all. Nope. And the last Moon Knight series, which was the Bendis series, felt very tied to the Marvel Universe.
But that's the one that I don't know if it was Ellis was retconning or not with him shouting at the
he's
Captain America,
it.
Wolverine, and Spider-Man.
He's referencing. He's not retconning it. It happened.
Yeah, well, since I never read the Bendis Moon Knight, I don't know if that was explicitly a delusion then or...
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's revealed in the third issue that he's talking to himself.
All right.
It cuts to New York, Captain America, Spider-Man, and Wolverine, and they're like, well, Moon Knight's doing crazy stuff again. I wonder what he's up to. And you're like, oh, they're in his head. Yeah, that was very explicitly said. So it's a reference, and I liked that it wasn't a retcon of what came before. Because, say what you will about Moon Knight, I think the last two series before this were fairly successful. The artist who is currently drawing Batman, Finch, did the first couple trades of not the Bendis one, but the one before that, I think. It was 2011 Moon Knight, maybe?
There is one thing that really bothered me about this Moon Knight, though, and that was the one page where the Doctor is talking to him about, an outer terrestrial entity remapped your brain using whatever.
Extreme Ellisism.
Yeah, it was very Warren Ellis-y.
But it's also, too,
so was the Dream issue. I mean...
Sure.
I mean, what's his name? Planetary did his own psychedelic dream.
Oh issue. Yeah, Elijah Snow.
Yes, he had his own psychedelic.
Well, I mean, everything about this book is a hyper Ellis, and
for the most part, I liked it. I think it's very much in keeping with the Marvel universe. For the most part, gods are not strictly speaking gods. They're extra-dimensional aliens with advanced super science that looks like magic, much like the like the Asgardians or the Celestials or Galactus. They're not actively supernatural; they're just science beyond science.
What about the Asgardians?
Well, I think that
We don't talk
I mean,
about those.
Marvel is very different from DC in that respect.
Right.
Like DC, it very much is. There is a magic DC universe, and Marvel, although it has magical characters, it's often like, well, I mean, like, how does it work? Like, it doesn't matter.
I'm opening a portal to this other dimension, and
Yeah.
energy comes out of it, and I shape that energy into a thing I want to happen.
I put my fingers up in a specific like shape, and I wave my hands around, and I'm Doctor Stranging everything.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really matter. And I think that was a really weird scene, especially since she's like a doctor of psychology.
Yeah.
And it was like, how does the Marvel universe work as far as like the physics, and you have these like doctors, but they're like, yeah, but there's also gods and celestials and stuff, and there's all this stuff that like technically science can't prove, but like I saw Thor knock a building down, so I guess I have to like somehow in my mind just accept that like that Mjolnir can somehow fly and also not be picked up at the same time.
Like, oddly, I think scientists in the Marvel Universe must have a lot of faith.
Yeah,
Far as they're like, well, I see this thing happening, so obviously science can do that on some level because this is a real thing. I just have no fucking idea how
I
that
imagine
works.
they operate much in the same way science in our world operates, which is like, I've seen a thing, now I have to prove how it is a thing.
Laws of physics, conservation of mass and energy.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Atomic Robo going like, why do we even have the cube square law? Like,
Yeah.
this defies everything that we thought we knew.
Yeah.
But it's real, so we're just going to skip all past that.
Let's just punch the giant ant in the head.
Yep.
Sometimes you have scientific models that last past their usefulness just because nothing else has really been.
Oh, sure.
I mean, like, and again, I've only read like a few books on the subject, but the electron theory doesn't accurately explain all of the phenomenon that we see with electricity.
Oh, yeah.
It describes most, but not all. And so
Well,
we're like,
that's the
it's like
whole idea of a
epicycles.
model, though.
Yeah.
That's
right,
like
yeah, exactly.
Epicycles are my favorite go-to for scientific theories that have outlived their use date and are being kludged to keep going because nobody's come up with anything better.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of how the Marvel Universe must work. It's like, well, we have a kind of an idea, but it doesn't always work.
Go ahead, Adam.
Just to explain epicycles for people who never heard of them, it's when they were still trying to figure out the planetary orbits, and they didn't have a good explanation for retrograde motion. They said, okay, well, the planet doesn't orbit, and that does a little loop-de-loop in the orbit.
Well,
It was
that's
specifically
like-
because orbits had to be perfect circles.
Yes.
Because God.
yeah,
well,
and
that
that's
was at one point, you know.
But
they
the
kept going away and
epicycles
coming
thing
back.
comes out of that, and that's like 500 years old. You want to talk about something recent? Let's talk about that. Up until the early teens, there was something called the ether that light moved through because you had to have something to compare. It wasn't until Einstein came along and said,
Okay,
well,
you're talking about the
what
last
if-
century.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
last
can't
century.
say teens now. And
I know,
everything
right?
like
I thought it was
2
just it was
years ago.
yesterday. It was
Yeah, it was like
yesterday.
2 years ago.
I
Soon
mean,
you'll be like, why don't
if
we
you look
just
at
dress like it's the 20s?
the
And I'll be like, we
periodic,
are. We are, Joe.
The periodic table of the elements is relatively recent. When you think about a scientific community that has pretty much understood planetary motion for fucking 400 years, or 300 years, the fact that like, we thought alchemy was a thing until like the late 1890s. I mean,
Alchemy was just chemistry that was less formalized.
no, alchemy. There was the two thoughts. Chemistry. People that thought chemistry was a thing about electrons and atoms, they were like, "You're fucking crazy. This is alchemy. This is the fucking this is the thing."
It's magic.
And it wasn't until
Joe, you're just saying that because your humors are out of balance.
it's just, oh God, they so are. My black bile
you're
is
just
way
really
down.
upset that you can't turn things into
I'm gonna
gold.
need you.
I need less green bile, more black bile, and I need
it's
some
black
leeches.
bile and yellow bile, Joe. There's no
Oh,
such thing as green bile. That is just
Yo,
cockamamie
bile grits.
nonsense.
I'm tired of this East Coast, West Coast bullshit debate about the second bile, all right?
You're also just mad that you can't like clap your hands together and then make things appear.
That,
out of it.
yeah, well, who fucking isn't mad about that? Yes, of course I'm mad about that. I want a hot dog. Oh, this fucking rock is now money that I can use to buy a hot dog.
Why would you turn the rock into money instead of just a hot dog? Like, why
That's
are you
more
inserting a step?
complicated.
That's more yeah, it's the simplest thing.
Yeah. The simple, yeah.
All right.
You would
best path
understand if you had
between 2
watched
points
Full
is a
Metal,
straight
Metal
line.
Alchemist.
But anyway, Besides it being too short, Joe, is there anything you didn't enjoy about the series?
I mean, it's everything I've come to expect from Warren Ellis. It was thoughtfully
Warren
written.
Ellis doing his good stuff, because he doesn't always do.
Well, no, but I mean, I don't acknowledge his bad stuff because I'm pretty vocal about the fact that I don't fucking like it. I mean, Warren Ellis has diarrhea of the mind. Like, he's got so many fucking ideas that I really think, I'm grateful that he has a place to put the ones where he's like, these are my really fucking crazy ideas. And he can put them like in his Avatar press stuff.
Or his novels.
And I liked,
Wicked Little Vein.
yes. But I knew it would be good. It's the kind of character that he writes well because this is the kind of thing that he enjoys doing, is this kind of like slightly left of center, very weird, like odd occult mystic shit that he's like really into.
The universe is an informational machine.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, and I thought the Tenement Rescue is fucking, that's a clinic in how to write an action comic book. That's like, that's beautiful. But he's also like, I see that in fucking,
And, part of it is that because he is only doing 6 issues, he isn't trying to work towards any meta plot. He isn't trying to establish any ongoing villain. He isn't trying to go through any character growth. He's just telling single, solid, episodic stories.
I think the Tenement Rescue is a really good example of how not Batman he is, too.
Yes.
Because he disarms a gun without ever moving. He just talks to a guy until the guy gives him his gun.
Yes.
Like, a Batman could not do that.
I bet you my gun is faster than your bat.
Yeah,
He's like,
and he's like, it doesn't
kill
matter.
her-
You shoot her, I'm going to beat you to death.
You can kill her, but you can't kill me.
Right.
And the only thing keeping me from killing you is that she's not dead. Or
Yeah.
however you put
But
that.
And then he just hits him with the bat, which is great.
That
but-
issue is so good that I can sit back after I read it, close my eyes, and watch it play out in my head like it's a movie.
It has some amazing dialogue, and it has one
really
of my
is.
favorite Moon Knight lines.
If they ever
think
make a
ever.
Moon Knight movie, that has to be in it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
My favorite
It'd
Moon
be a
Knight
Moon Knight TV show, though. I think would be
movie.
much better.
My favorite Moon Knight line
So
is, I really need that, and then he takes the bat away from the guy. Or I really
My
want
favorite
that.
part of that is when the guy's coming down the stairs and he throws a moon ring at him and he nails his foot to the fucking step while he's beating the crap out of somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's so simple.
I
It's like
did,
such a great idea.
If I may do my best Toby impression, I do have a few nits to pick with this issue, with these issues. One, in the beginning when he's talking to the cop and he's like, "Oh, he's got something wrong with his heel. He walks funny." Blah blah blah. I'm assuming that he's looking at tracks in some kind of gravel, which, although it is
Or
a
in
city
blood.
that should be covered in concrete, it's either tracks of blood or tracks in the gravel. When you see the guy, one of his legs is just a metal, like, hook. Like, you wouldn't have fucking noticed that one of his legs is just a
cheetah leg.
bar?
It's a real thing.
What?
It's a cheetah leg. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a prosthesis that
Yeah.
actual paraplegics
But
wear.
how is he looking at the tracks and not noticing that it's a guy with a prosthetic leg? He doesn't mention it once.
Maybe he lost that. Like, he had a different fake leg on that he changed out
Oh,
when he
okay.
got home.
Or maybe
No,
he's
sure.
That's his home leg.
Or maybe
Yeah.
he's looking at the tracks from the foot that's still got a boot on it.
Yeah.
and saying that
But he doesn't see the other
It
leg
doesn't
isn't
say anything.
leaving tracks.
I
No.
agree. I just don't
Also,
like that
the
into
first
it.
time, actually both times I read this, the scene where he pulls the moonerang out and the guy's like, "Put your weapon down" or whatever, and he like flicks it, and then later it magically shows up in his side, I found to be like...
It's actually there in the very next panel.
He-
It
does,
is.
'cause
It
he's-
is, but you don't notice it.
No.
And I find it annoying because it's just like, hey, did you read the comic? Now flip back 2 pages and look at what I was trying to show you but didn't really show you accurately.
You're supposed to do that. It's supposed to be a
fuck
surprise.
You. I already read those pages. I don't want to go back to them.
Yeah,
they
the
have
whole,
happened
like,
already.
I did it 2 minutes ago.
We're up. We're upgrading from I don't want to read a comic written before 1986 to I don't want to read.
It's not a comic
pages that
before
I've read
1986.
Two
I
pages.
love comics before 1986. It's characters from before 1986 that died in 1986. I don't want to read about them anymore, unless it's a flashback to when they were like, "Hey, chum, it's 1974, and you're my new sidekick."
So-
then,
Okay.
other than that, no, we're done with those. They're dead. I'm done with them.
This actually reminds me of something, how much a lot of this run reminded me of Global Frequency, because he uses that exact same fucking line in Global
I'm
Frequency.
glad-
I did it 2 minutes ago.
I'm
Like,
glad-
there's no way you're going to do that. No, I did it 2 minutes ago.
Well, I'm glad I
It's
didn't read Global Frequency then, or I feel like it would have ruined that line even worse for me.
It's just like...
There's one other. Oh, fucking.
What if he had said, "I
what's
did it
his
2
name?
pages
The Night
ago"?
Spectre.
Black Spectre.
Whatever. He throws fucking darts. Like
Yeah.
billiard board darts.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Doesn't he
It
know
is.
that Bullseye does
That's
that?
the whole point. Is that it's
Yeah, but he
stupid.
has a gun.
Yes.
Yes,
It's supposed to be stupid.
Yeah, but
one
it's
of the
really
classic
stupid.
Ellis incompetent villain.
He is descending down the path of the supervillain, and Ellis is showing you page by page. This is how stupid villains are.
Yeah, I
they
don't
do
like that.
stupid things for stupid reasons.
I love villains. They always do everything for great reasons. They just have like slightly bad
I'm
intentions.
sorry,
The first
I'm sorry,
Baron
but our
Zemo-
fucking live stream, listeners will know that's bullshit, because you were just talking about how they should fucking patent their technology.
Well, I'm assuming there's some kind of laws against it in the DC universe that keeps Captain Cold from patenting his cold gun and selling it to refrigerator companies.
Okay, the first Baron Zemo had a hood glued to his face for 50 years.
You know,
This is not a smart man.
there's a reason that
Now
I
I put the hood
love.
on, and shit.
There's a reason I love shows like The Venture Brothers that have really awesome villains doing awesome villain things.
But you can't accuse them of being. I mean, fucking Sergeant Hatred is
Yeah.
not a smart man. The
No, I mean,
Monarch is not a smart
But
man.
they're great villains.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference is like the Night Spectre or whatever is
The
fucking
Black
not a
Spectre,
great
like
villain.
it's his first day as a supervillain, and he's like, "I'm gonna throw darts," and
Yeah.
it doesn't work well for him
and
at
I
all.
think that'd be great if there was another 8 issues about him like learning to be a better villain.
It's just
But
him
unfortunately,
throwing
there's
darts.
not.
It's just him throwing darts over and over and over again.
That is
Eight
one of
issues.
the Ellisisms I've noticed coming up, where the villains are not equal antagonists to the hero's protagonists, where they are ultimately rather pathetic and short-sighted and misguided. And I'm sure this is a commentary on Ellis's views on what these people and their beliefs and their effectiveness is like.
Yeah.
And it's a continuing pattern in the villains in Ellis stories.
Well, Ellis writes competence porn for
Yeah.
a large swath of his career, and
Yeah,
one
so
of the
why are
best
the
ways to
villains
make
not
somebody look
competent?
really competent is to have them fight somebody who's not competent,
No,
and have them go,
it's
"Look at
not.
how shit you are."
No,
Wrong.
it's to put them up
Wrong.
against somebody that's equally
Wrong.
competent.
Phantom Limb, prime example. Why is Phantom Limb cool? Because Brock says he's cool. And Brock is the coolest fucking guy that there is. And when the coolest guy that there is goes, "You're all right," then that guy's cool. That's exactly how you show that a villain, that a superhero is awesome, is that the villains are equally awesome. If every villain is as shitty as the Black Spectre, then I don't really
But
care
they're
that
not.
It's really good.
It's not every villain; it's one villain.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any other villains.
Not in this
I mean,
story.
like, I feel like
Does.
that's the thing.
He's
that's-
hiding them.
I love this series. I think it's great. But ultimately, one of the things that falls flat for me is like, at no point is Moon Knight ever challenged.
His next villain
Ever.
is going to be
Hey,
the
look,
Chartopus.
you
It's
can-
going to be you with 8 arms.
You can
It's
say
just-
the same
I've been
thing
playing too
about
much
Elijah's
Splatoon and I turned
You're
into
just
an...
like,
I would win then.
That was, the lack of competent challenge is something I felt keenly in Planetary, where
Yeah.
Elijah Snow
Yes.
doesn't feel seriously challenged at any point.
Yes.
And the ultimate confrontation with the Four is, you are stupid and pathetic, and you are not worth me defeating.
It also has fringe syndrome for me, which is where it's like, oh, there's this thing, there's this other thing, and you don't know what it is, and it's spoopy scary, and it's really cool. Here's the thing. And you're like, that's not cool at all. That was Planetary for me. Also, he never felt challenged, and I felt bored through like a majority of the series because these guys not only were so competent that they were awesome, they were so competent as that nothing proved a threat to them.
The exploration and discovery parts of Planetary were awesome.
I like some of Planetary, but
yes.
Sure.
I felt like this had a lot of the same problems, and had we seen Moon Knight go on for 20, 30 issues, I would have been like, where are the real villains?
And that's why it's good. I feel it's good that Ellis just did I've got this idea. I really want to do it. 6 issues. I'm done. I'm out. And that's why I'm okay with that.
Me too. And it was a fun snack, and I had a good time, and I love the art. It's so absolutely amazing that
it is.
It's both. I feel like everyone who is a fan of comic book art and visual storytelling should read this book. I think it's a great gateway comic to people who haven't read a lot of comic books because it shows rather than telling. You don't feel lost as to like, do I read the pictures first or the words first? Like, it does it for you. It's like a very well put together series. And I think that every time Jordie Bellaire is on a comic, it is an absolute masterclass in how to use color and palette.
I love how prolific she is these days, because it seems like every other thing I read, she's coloring.
Well,
and it's
awesome.
it's all different and it's all amazing. And I mean, Dave Stewart, who colors everything Hellboyverse, I think is probably one of the best colorists ever to work in comics. Not only because his work over Mike Mignola is amazing, but because his work over everyone is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the difference between an awesome colorist and an amazing colorist is the ones who can work over everything, who change their style, adapt their palette. Like, this looks nothing like Pretty Deadly. And I think that's great.
No, absolutely.
And, I'm just a huge fan of the color work on the series.
Oh,
and I think the art's amazing. I think it's a fun series.
Yeah.
So. Despite the nits to pick, I don't know. I mean, again, you can read it in like under a half hour. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, it's
other nits to pick. This is a Marvel trade, which means it's like $25.
Yeah,
and your time reading per like dollar value is not super high. So I recommend buying it when it's on sale, because you're going to read it really fast. Although you can look at the art like over and over and over
Yeah, you can read
again.
this book multiple times.
Yeah, I do feel like there is a problem with Marvel's pricing system right now.
Yes.
And that it is way too high.
I absolutely agree. And I definitely recommend, if you have a Joe in your life, go over to Joe's house and read his copy.
Yeah.
Because that's free.
I don't buy the only trades I buy these days are image trades, because they're priced right.
You
Sure,
could buy
but
2.5 image firsts for this.
The principle being is that you have friends,
Yeah.
hopefully, who have comic books, and you can make them pay for it.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
But yes, Marvel books are overpriced.
Although I think it worked really well digitally, so maybe hang out for that Comixology sale. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or a Humble Bundle, if Marvel
Humble
ever does
Bumble?
one. Humble Bumble.
A humble
Yeah,
bubble.
Humble.
So there you go. You guys have anything else you wanted to say about?
I didn't. I'm going to break the fourth wall for a second. How are we doing on time?
We're at an hour.
We're at an hour.
Okay, because we did have a question on the Facebook page that I was kind of interested in your reactions to.
Yeah.
Completely separate from Moon Knight.
Yes.
Dante asked, or he speculated that we are in a new golden age of comics. And I was interested in what your reactions to that statement would be.
I'm actually, I read that, and then I read Brian May's response to that, which I think is very strong. I
agree.
It depends on how you define golden age. If you're trying to say that we are in an age in which more good stuff is coming out than bad stuff, and not only that, but more good stuff is coming out now than has before, I might be willing to agree with that, because there is so much coming out right now, and I feel like a lot of it is of a very high quality. But Brian's comment was something to the extent of a golden age usually implies that there aren't really a lot of rules, and you're kind of just, it's an exploratory period. And I think that in some ways the Image Comics and the indie creator-owned comics movement has been that for 10 years, yeah. where just new stuff continues to come out, new explorations of what those ideas in comics can be. I think so. In a way, sort of. We still do have the big two kind of weighing that down, but
I would say not so much exploratory as foundational, that people talk about the golden age of comics and the golden age of science fiction as these times when all these new ideas were put out that we're still using now.
Yeah.
People are still using spaceships and tractor beams and ray guns and blasters that Doc Smith invented in Galactic Patrol.
Space Marine.
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, almost 100 years ago. And that's why that was the golden age. And that makes golden ages really hard to identify until you've got a little distance from them and can see, well, this stuff has lasted.
Yeah. I liked what Toby had to say. I think we're living in a renaissance. The more I think about it, the more I wonder if 20 years from now we'll be talking about this as the indie age. The age where independent comics came into their own and really showed, hey, we have fucking power here.
Well,
we have selling power.
The comment that I made to Adam was we've had indie markets in the past, but they were qualitatively different from what the big guys were doing because they were being done on the cheap.
Yeah.
Black and white, no color, small print runs,
Paper.
cheap paper, not the best artwork. They were being done fast to get them out the door because it was one or maybe two people doing it instead of a team. A penciler and an inker and a colorist and a letterer. Like, it was one person doing it.
I think if you want to look at the difference between indie comics right now and indie comics when they were kind of burgeoning, you need look no further than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Eastman and Laird's version versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles now. I think they're both excellent comics, but they exemplify the time period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my point to him was we are just now at the first moment, I feel, where an independent creator working by themselves, doing it digitally, doing a digital distribution run, and then if that's successful, doing a print run, and then if that's successful, doing a bigger print run of a sequel.
Crowdsourcing for
and getting
bigger
crowdsourcing. Like, it is just now possible for an independent creator, one person, to put out something that is at or above the quality of something that a big studio like Marvel or DC would do. And I think that is the fundamental game changer that we're seeing, is that it's now really possible for somebody to sit down and do that and do it on a professional level, solo.
or not even just solo, where these can be successful enough to support a small team working together.
Yeah.
Whereas, one of the driving forces for the solo creator project, the Usagis, was they just didn't make enough to support more than one person.
Right.
And you can collaborate with people wherever in the world.
Right.
That, I could be in Washington State and I could be working with an artist in Nigeria, and we can be Skyping back and forth or shooting emails or whatever,
That's
and
how
working
they did-
together in real time.
So Azzarello did 100 Bullets. I mean, Eduardo Rizzo was living in South America, I think, at that point, and they did everything through email and
Stepan
Skype.
Sage is still in Europe, isn't he?
Yeah, Hungary or Croatia.
Croatia.
So,
Croatia.
I mean, and I think that's kind of what really... I go back and look at Cerebus, and for those first probably 24 issues, that's Dave Sim by himself doing these incredibly intricate backgrounds by fucking, just him and a fucking pen. And, the only thing that he ever shifted was he gave the backgrounds to somebody. I can't remember who it was, but at certain point after, I think it's after the first two trades, he gives the backgrounds to somebody else to do because he just physically can't do it. He put out 300 issues of that, doing it himself.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Stan Sakai, and right now you don't, those are kind of like the indie kind of giants right there because they've just been doing it for so long. But now you can meet somebody and go, hey, I have an idea for a comic book, save up a few grand and pitch it to somebody and they'll print it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I think
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, technologically, I think there's obviously something that held everybody back in the early era was the technology that people were using, the advanced digital
The technology for the creation, the production, the
computer,
distribution, all of it is changing.
Hi-fi color for comics essentially now is very affordable.
Yeah.
When at the time it wasn't. It still takes
Oh,
skill
dude,
and it's
digital
still all that.
coloring.
But it's a big difference. I think the one thing that is holding indie comics back is actually distribution. And I think it's something that, Marvel and DC can print these huge print runs of books in the hopes that they will be successful and make a lot of money on that. But when a book like Chew, when the first issue comes out, the reason that issue is so hard to find now is because it sold out, because it was a small print run, because they couldn't afford to take a big chance and go, I really hope this pays off, because they don't have the money that DC and Marvel do to just like lose out on a comic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that that's a huge deal. I mean, like when you order as a retailer like 200 issues of Convergence, and then you sell out, and then you go to order more, like DC has more because they printed more. But when you sell out of stuff like, the early issues of The Walking Dead, early issues of Chew, anything in Image, they don't have any more. They have to do another printing if the demand is high enough. And with digital comics, that's not an issue anymore.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's a huge deal because you don't sell out, therefore your revenue stream doesn't end when the printing ends.
The two things that I would compare it to, television. Mm-hmm. For a long time, you had web-based television that was qualitatively worse than what was on broadcast TV. It was cheaply done. It was hard to stream. Like, you just couldn't do it. And now we have digital television that includes Kimmy Schmidt, House of Cards, Daredevil, Orange is the New Black, like...
Oranges.
The
new black.
the wrong guys, if you want to go with some Hulu original programming.
Yeah, or, Community was produced by Yahoo Screen this year. Like, things that are being produced as web-only content are equal to, if not better than, what is coming out on broadcast television.
Absolutely.
You've also got Steam as a marketplace for indie games, where we have a renaissance of indie gaming going on right now.
The XBLA
Can we not talk
and
about
the PlayStation
Steam?
Network did a lot of that too.
Joe, don't be butthurt because the Steam sale just started and it's going to take all of your money.
Yeah, all of your money.
I'm trying not to think about it, but I walk by my computer. Oh, my computer. Hey, don't talk shit about my Batman play. You'll fucking love it when you can come over and play Bloodborne on it.
Yeah, I'll play it at home.
And I absolutely agree. I mean, we've got Comixology now. We've got a couple of other digital comics platforms.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the iTunes of comics.
Yes.
I paid the same exact amount of money for my Batman PlayStation
No,
that you
because I'm
get as a
going to
normal
get a
one.
used first-gen PlayStation 4 that has the smaller hard drive because everyone's selling theirs now to get a terabyte drive.
Well, I don't know if I think mine has a 500 gig drive, but
Well,
whatever.
you fucked up.
I don't care.
So do we have anything else to say about Golden Ages, or are we ready to talk about
No,
recommendations?
I think you're all right. Everybody's right.
Real quick,
Yes.
also, Brandon says that In Stock Trades has Moon Knight Volume 1 for $10.
Yeah,
Well,
InStockTrades.com is awesome.
then
This is not a brand partnership with InStockTrades.com.
But we should have one because they're
Yes,
awesome.
if In Stock Trades is listening, we will shill for
I've
you.
actually used them a lot in the past before I stopped collecting physical comics. They often have really cool sales too.
Oh, yeah.
And you can go visit them at their physical location on Free Comic Book Day, and they have like a massive sale every year.
Where are they
so-
located?
Another
Some
state.
Midwest? Question
Yeah.
mark? I think the Midwest. I don't.
Okay.
I don't actually know. I've never been.
So, not helpful to most people.
Yeah, sorry. Look it up online. I don't know. You have fucking Google. It's not my job.
Is fucking Google like normal Google?
I'm not the Yellow Pages.
Are you sure?
I'm not Ask Jeeves.
Is Chard not a talking phone book? Because I'm pretty sure
What
he's
was
a
the one
talking
with
phone
the
book.
dog?
Expedia?
McGruff, the crime
I don't
dog?
know. Maybe that was just Ask.com.
That might have been.
I don't know. Was there?
Anyway,
Anywho,
Rex.
I'm
Yes.
going to go first.
No, you're not.
I am.
Brian
fight
May's going to go first.
Oh, Jesus,
and I'm going to
okay.
read Brian May's pitch.
Okay.
Okay.
He says, in support of the Culling the Reading List initiative, I'm recommending a classic that's been mentioned before. We actually mentioned it on this episode. He is pitching Alias by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Grados. Once a superhero, Jessica Jones now serves New York City as the best meta-abled private investigator that money can buy. You know, for when your superhero mission is a little too embarrassing or sketchy to bring in the Avengers. 28 issues and the omnibus is back in print.
Yes.
Let's celebrate that before they all sell out again when the Netflix show drops.
Yeah, because there's every indication to believe that this will be used as the basis.
I mean, what else could be used?
I
as
don't
the
know.
basis?
I mean, but that's I am
fan
automatically
fiction?
assumed. Well, yes.
I mean, I
but,
hope it's that.
God, that's good stuff, man. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
So yeah,
Excellent.
Alias.
This was part of the Max line?
Yes.
Yes,
it was Max.
Yeah, so it was like the 18 plus Marvel readers
Yeah.
club.
One of the widely acknowledged good Brian Michael Bendis joints.
Yeah.
So, Joe.
Early Bendis, too, because
Yeah.
he had just kind of come off of his crime runs
Powers,
with, like,
you know,
well, not only Powers, but, like, Jinx and
Goldfish.
and
Yep.
Torso.
Yeah. I haven't read Torso.
It's good. I mean,
So I am also going way back in the back issues bin, and I'm going
Why
to
do you get to
recommend.
go next?
Because I'm going next.
He called
Alright,
dibs.
Do you want to go next?
No,
You usually go last.
I do.
We've been switching it up a little bit recently.
So I'm going to go before I fucking forget what I'm going to pitch, because I just gave you the opportunity to go. And
No,
you were
go
like,
ahead. You do
No,
your thing.
whatever. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man story of all time. It's Kraven's Last Hunt.
Ooh, oh, yeah, I was supposed to remind you that you
Yes. Well, Toby did yesterday or the day
Yes,
before.
yesterday.
But basically, Kraven driven mad by his obsession with Spider-Man and the one enemy he cannot defeat, defeats Spider-Man and then becomes Spider-Man.
Yes,
and it's a really
the genesis of the superior Spider-Man.
it really is, yeah.
True.
Yeah, because he says, I will become the superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But it's a really, I think that Kraven was a popular villain at a time when Spider-Man villains were a little bit more cartoony. And this is definitely an incredible, it's a very intense and emotional look at the psychology of Kraven. And it really turns him into a force to be reckoned with. And it gets it, I think it really kind of explores the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane and just the relationship between heroes and villains. And I just think it's beautifully written. I cannot remember, of course, right now who wrote it, but it's beautifully drawn. It's an incredibly well told story. So that's my pitch for today is Kraven's Last Hunt.
Question. Do you
Yes.
feel like if Kraven ever became washed out as like a villain in the Marvel Universe, he could become like a fast food mascot and be like,
Oh God,
I'm
yeah.
really craving some.
Well, no, I
Colonel's
think he would.
chicken.
I think he would form a partnership with one of those like exotic meat restaurants that, like, oh, we had like giraffe today. Don't ask us where we got it. It's
I
definitely
just want
not
him to
buffalo.
say like, I'm really craving some
I'm
Burger
craving-
King.
Are
and
you
then-
craving some chicken?
I'm
Reality
craving.
show,
and then-
from producers who think he's going to be the next Steve Irwin,
Yeah.
and it goes hilariously wrong.
That's
They did
Ultimate
that.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, they
That's
did
Kraven
that.
in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh,
He's
well.
a reality star.
It's okay that you
I
don't
did-
know that, because reading Ultimate Spider-Man is only a little bit better
makes
than
your-
banging your head into a wall for 20 minutes.
If you read it all, it makes your brain into applesauce.
It really does.
No,
I'm
I-
so
I-
coming from
I
that.
like applesauce.
I do too. It's delicious.
I used to like applesauce, and then I got really car sick on a field trip where I was eating applesauce, and now I can't stand it.
Ooh, that'll do it.
So, Adam, what would you like to pitch for us?
Well, I got this gig on a little short notice, so last night I was digging through my back issue stacks and thinking of how the Star Wars universe has been basically rebooted and shifted all this older stuff off into the legacy continuity. I was inspired to pitch my favorite Star Wars series that is now no longer mainstream canon, which is the 2006 Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic series
Oh yeah.
by John Miller, who I looked it up, has not done a lot of comic stuff, but has continued to do Star Wars stuff, and has in fact done the first novel in the new continuity, which is a prequel to the Star Wars Rebel series. But about Star Wars KOTOR, it was coming on the heels of the first KOTOR computer game, and is building off some of the same set pieces, although set a little bit earlier in the timeline. And the reason this stands out as one of my favorite Star Wars comic series, the new ones are really good so far, mostly, is, for me, good Star Wars has always been about balancing multiple genre elements at the same time. You need a little bit of the military science fiction, and you need a little bit of the space wizards, and you need a little bit of the swashbuckling adventure, and you can't have too much of any one of those. And I think Star Wars KOTOR does a really excellent job of striking that right balance. Without spoilers, it is about with minimal spoilers, a Jedi Padawan who is not the most gifted in his class, who ends up being framed for a crime he did not commit and has to go on the run with a crew of rather shady characters in order to escape those who framed him and prove his innocence. And, it's got enough he's providing some Jedi-ness, but it's not full on, I am a godlike space wizard that overshadows everybody else. And it's got a good sense of fun and, goes through capers that, as always, never go according to plan. And I think it's a lot of fun, although the art can be a little inconsistent with some less good fill-in artists. And I'm recommending the first 12 issues.
Yeah, it's got some Mandalorians in it. It's got some sweet space alien stuff. It's good. I liked that one.
It's got a grifter con man, the adult machinist, the warrior woman. It's, a nice mixed crew, and it strikes the balance that Star Wars needs really well.
Yeah.
Neat. So, I've made no illusions that Usagi Yojimbo is one of my absolute favorite comics ever. We were talking about Stan Sakai a little bit earlier. But I haven't pitched it because it's super duper long. And it's hard to pick just one small section of it that's really appropriate to talk about on the main show. So instead, I'm going to, pitch a Usagi Yojimbo Elseworlds story. Space Usagi. It's Usagi in space.
Yay.
This is a very kind of Star Wars-y take on Usagi, which is interesting because Star Wars is originally based on a Kurosawa film.
Well, multiple of them. But
Yeah.
it was Space Samurai.
Yeah, and this is Space Samurai having space battles against space fortresses. And there's smugglers and pirates and ninjas.
But
And
are they hidden space fortresses?
No.
Is he green and is his name Jax?
No.
Jackson?
It's in black and white. And I think you mean Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah, that was my second question. Are they fighting frogs?
No, they're fighting cat ninjas.
No,
Not
Bucky
Bucky O'Hare.
O'Hare was a different cartoon because wasn't Jax from the 80s Marvel comic?
Jackson was from the 80s Star Wars comic.
Yeah.
He was a green rabbit named Jackson.
Yeah, with less to go on the original Marvel comics back in the 80s went weird places.
Well, there was only one movie. They were like, well, I guess we'll just do whatever.
In the 80s, there were 2 movies.
Well, no,
No.
it started
The
right at the same
started.
time.
Oh,
and
there was
went
only
through the
one.
movies
Yeah.
and then kept going.
Kept going, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And Jackson happened before Empire Strikes Back, the comic adaptation of that. So, Space Usagi.
it's great science fiction, samurai. It's all ages. It's so much fun. And it's a great self-contained work. And you can get all of Space Usagi in one volume for like $18.
Sweet.
And it's like nice and thick.
Sweet.
It's about equivalent to I want to say 20 issues.
I feel
Maybe
like...
not 20.
No, not 20, like 12. It's like a couple hundred pages.
Yeah. I feel like Usagi may end up being a future long-run pick from you.
Yeah,
sensing that.
eventually.
Yeah.
Are you?
But I think it would be really fun to talk about Space Usagi
with
because
my
in some ways I
magic.
like him better than Usagi.
With your Deanna Troi powers, what was her race?
Betazoid.
Betazoid, that's what it was. Are you like, I'm sensing that Toby's going to pick Usagi Yojimbo as a long run?
Diana Troy was never that helpful.
No, she wasn't.
It's like the ship is
It's like,
shooting at us.
I'm sensing
Picard's
you'll-
like, what's going on, Troy? And she's like,
Pick a-
I sense hostility.
He'll pick a comic book to talk about.
Wait. I'm psychically pregnant again.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I really thought you guys were talking about Donna Troy for a while, and I was like, she does not have psychic powers and was never in space. She's in space all the time.
She was in space.
She's
Her
in space all the
universe,
time,
her
but-
uniform was space,
Yeah.
and not her
well,
universe.
She joined the Dark Stars for a little while, I'm pretty
Yep,
sure.
she
She
did.
was in space a couple times. So.
Yeah, she was totally in the Dark Stars.
After she lost her Amazon Powers, I think.
And then she got it on with Kyle Rayner. Yeah, buddy.
Yes.
Kyle
I'm
Rayner's
not
a
going to make it.
player.
I'm not going to comment about that. Chard,
Yeah.
what would you like to pitch?
So I'm going to pitch an image book.
No,
Surprise.
my God.
And I'm going to pitch one. The trade is coming out June 17th, which has not yet happened yet, but will happen before the release
I
of this.
think this is actually
No.
going to go out on
It'll
June.
go out before.
No, this is going to go out on June 15th.
Right. And so Wednesday, after this releases, the first trade will be out. And it contains the first 5 issues from a writer we're all fans of, Kel Simmons, who did The Mercenary Sea, which I also recommended. This is his fantasy with a twist series, Reyn, Reyn. And he's been sending me the promo copies to talk about on top of the stack. And I wanted a good place to actually dig into and talk about the series, so I figured I'd recommend it. It's really fun. It's got a guy who is a warden, and the wardens have not been seen for a long. I read that as ranger or Witcher, some kind of special class that you have to prestige class.
Yeah, no, that's
into.
definitely a prestige class.
Yeah.
And there haven't been wardens for a really long time, and then this guy shows up, and these salamander people are like, what the fuck is a warden doing back here? I thought we got rid of all of those guys. Get the warden. And that's kind of where the series goes. And then there are a bunch of technology wizards and running around and getting imprisoned and then finding salamander technology. And it's interesting. It's only 5 issues, and it will continue. August 12th is when issue 7 comes out.
What happened to episode 6?
It's not in the first
Reyn,
trade.
Reyn, the first part of the next story arc will come out July 15th, which is the 6th, and then 7 will come out in August. But yeah, this one contains the first 5. It is not a complete story. It is the beginning of a story, but I think it's really interesting, and now is a good time for everyone to go out and check it out if they like fantasy or, technology type stuff. So,
Cool.
And salamander people with cool purple text in their text balloons.
So,
Word
Joe,
balloons.
what would you like to read?
I think I want to talk about Alias, although when we get a little bit closer to the show coming out, it's something that I would like to eventually talk about it in context of the show, but I think I'm going to vote for Alias.
Cool.
Adam?
Reyn sounds cool, but 5 issues sounds a little thin to me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. I am going to go with Kraven's Last Hunt.
I'm going to vote for Star Wars. I read the beginning of this series and never finished it, and I understand it went some interesting places.
Yeah, there's some cool twists that don't get revealed until the 30s or 40s of the issues. It actually went I think 50 issues. Did pretty well.
Yeah, it was running concurrently, I think, with Legacy, which went for a long time as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a good era in Dark Horse Star Wars, I think. I really wanted to go with Space Usagi because I have such a fondness for the Bucky O'Hare comic books.
I think
which
that you would
were
actually
awesome.
love this, and I would
feel
be glad to loan you the trade if you want.
Well, yeah, I would love to read all of Usagi, so at some point I need to get a digital bundle somewhere. Hopefully they'll do that. And but because I can't vote for that without causing a massive tie,
We can rock, paper, scissors.
I actually want to read Alias.
All right.
Really badly. I think we should read it and talk about it before the show comes out. And if we want to talk about it after the show comes out, I think we should do that too. I think why not? Let's talk about it all the time.
So I actually have, I'm going to pull a Cade here and I'm going to tell a story about Alias, but I'll do it very quickly. So
You've never told
the year
the
year I turned 30, I went to get a physical. And
So this is in what, the mid-90s?
1790.
1790s.
So the year I turned 30, I was getting a physical because I wanted to start a medication, and my general practitioner found a lump on my thyroid. And he said, I think you should go and get an ultrasound. So I got an ultrasound. They're like, well, we found something. We're going to send you to an ear, nose, and throat surgeon. And I went and had a consult with her, and she gave me a few options. The easiest of which was go in, cut it out, biopsy it. If it's cancer, go in and look for any more. So I went in for surgery, and when I woke up, I sounded like Patty and Selma. And I actually sounded like Marlon Brando from The Godfather for about 3 weeks, and then it lessened into a Patty and Selma. But my mom was there, and Frank was there. My good
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yes.
And this was a period when you were radioactive.
Yeah, well, no, this is right before I was radioactive.
Okay.
But I woke up, and my surgeon came in, and she's like, yeah, it was cancer, and we took your whole thyroid out, plus several lymph nodes on both sides. And I was like, and Frank went to the shop while I was under and bought me Alias and gave it to me. And so I have a very fond memory of that book, even though I don't remember a lot of that because being hypothyroid sucks, like, intensely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I've always had really fond memories, and I really love Alias. So I'm excited to read it.
So we're going to read the whole shebang, 28
Yeah, it's only
issues?
3 issues. It's only 3 trades, right? 4 trades?
It's total. They were small trades.
I'm going to have to buy that omnibus.
Yeah, it's actually...
It was 28 issues altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
I
let's
think we
do
can
it.
power through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right. Cool beans. So next time, Alias.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah. And
Thank
to
you.
Jennifer Garner.
Thank you for the pitch, Brian.
Yes, and thank you to everyone who's listening, and we will catch you next time.
Next time, don't pitch
for having
something
me
that's
on.
as good as the shit I pitch, Brian. Otherwise, we're going to have words, buddy. All right?
Bye, everybody.
We love you.
Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.